It was supposed to be an ordinary flight, but for Daniel Hayes, it became the day his past came crashing back, wrapped in a designer coat. Trembling in fear and seconds away from dying, Daniel was a single dad with more responsibilities than hours in the day. 3 years ago, he'd lost everything: his business, his marriage, and nearly his sanity. He worked now as a part-time mechanic in Denver, juggling shifts while raising his 8-year-old daughter, Emma, a bright little girl who dreamed of becoming a pilot. Morning. Daniel was exhausted but happy. He had just gotten the money together for Emma's birthday trip, a surprise visit to see airplanes take off at the big city airport. To Emma, airports were magic. To Daniel, they were reminders of missed opportunities. But fate had other plans. As he stood in the bustling terminal, holding Emma's hand, a scream cut through the crowd. A woman stumbled near gate 14, clutching her chest, gasping for breath. People froze, phones in hand but feet unmoving. Without hesitation, Daniel rushed forward. He caught the woman before she hit the floor. "Hey, ma'am, stay with me," he shouted, checking her pulse. She was pale, disoriented, her breath shallow. Daniel laid her flat, tilted her head, and started CPR. "Dad?" Emma cried softly. "It's okay, sweetheart. Call for help." For endless seconds, he pressed down on the woman's chest, fighting to keep her alive until medics arrived. When they did, she was breathing faintly, clutching his arm as they lifted her onto a stretcher. Her lips moved weakly, whispering, "Thank you." And just before she was wheeled away, Daniel finally saw her face clearly. He froze, because the woman he had just saved was Victoria Lane, the CEO of Lane Technologies, the ruthless executive whose decisions had destroyed his life. 3 years earlier, Daniel had owned a small drone design startup. He had poured everything into it: his savings, his late father's tools, his dreams. But when Lane Technologies made a deal that looked promising, Daniel signed a contract he barely understood. Within months, the deal collapsed. His patents were taken, his company swallowed whole, and his name blacklisted in the industry. He went bankrupt, his wife left, and he became a single dad, living paycheck to paycheck. Victoria Lane had been the face behind the press conference, the Datha, visionary CEO, who announced the acquisition. And now here she was, breathing because he saved her. 2 days later, Daniel got an unexpected call. "Mr. Hayes, this is Victoria Lane. I'd like to meet you." Every muscle in his body tightened. He wanted to say no, wanted to tell her she didn't deserve another second of his life. But curiosity and a strange sense of unfinished business won. They met in a quiet hospital garden. She looked frail, but still carried that aura of power, like someone used to being obeyed. I wanted to thank you personally," she said. "You saved my life." Daniel stared at her. "You ruined mine." The words slipped out before he could stop them. Victoria didn't flinch. "I know who you are. Daniel Hayes. You ran Aerovision." He nodded stiffly. "And yes. Until your company took everything," she sighed, looking down. "That wasn't supposed to happen the way it did. The board made decisions I didn't agree with. I was younger, than more focused on growth than people. I justified it all as business." She looked at him, her eyes glistening. "But seeing you, saving me, it broke something in me. I realized how far I'd fallen." Daniel didn't know what to say. The anger he'd carried for years trembled under the weight of her words. A week later, he received an invitation, an offer, actually. Victoria wanted him to consult for a new project, an innovation hub for independent engineers and inventors. It would be his designs, his name, his second chance. He refused at first. Pride wouldn't let him accept help from the woman who'd once crushed him. But then Emma came home from school with a drawing her and Daniel, flying a plane together, smiling above the clouds. "Daddy," she said, "if you had your own company again, could I help build drones with you?" That night, Daniel stared at the ceiling and realized something. Holding on to bitterness was like holding on to a burning coal. It only hurt him, not the one who threw it. He accepted the offer, but on one condition: the project had to be transparent, fair, and driven by compassion, not profit. To his surprise, Victoria agreed. Months passed. Together, they built something new: Aerohope Labs, a company that gave struggling innovators a place to grow without fear of exploitation. Victoria stepped back from her corporate empire, and dedicated herself to righting her wrongs. One evening, as the sun set behind the hangar, Victoria stood beside Daniel, watching Emma laugh as she launched a small drone into the air. "You gave me a second chance at life," she said quietly. "I'm trying to give you yours." Daniel smiled faintly. "Funny, I thought I'd never forgive you." "And now?" she asked. He paused. "Now I see you're trying. That's enough." Months later, the company's first prototype lifted off successfully, a hybrid drone that could deliver medical supplies to disaster zones. The media called it a miracle, but Daniel didn't care about the headlines. What mattered was that his daughter was smiling, his life had purpose again, and even in the mess of broken dreams, forgiveness had built something stronger. Because sometimes, the person who ruins your life is also the one who helps you rebuild it. Moral: forgiveness doesn't erase the past, it redeems it. Some people come into your life to destroy, others to rebuild. And if you're lucky, sometimes they turn out to be the same person.